Okay.
Yeah, ready to start now, Sumedh.
Yeah, just to check, can everyone see this?
Yeah, we can see your presentation.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, so welcome everyone. Thanks for coming. My name is Sumedh. I'm a fourth-year student at University of Leicester studying medicine. I'm just going to do a very quick, 25-minute, half an hour talk on all the aspects of studying medicine at university and also the application process. And then I'm happy to answer any questions that you have. So thought it would be useful to put the general timeline in the first slide. And I assume most of you are, most of you are between either 1 or 2 or 2 and 3. So your GCSEs come first. I think most of you would have done those. And then you obviously have to decide that you want to commit to medicine. It's a difficult thing to want to commit to a course because that's the thing you're going to stick to for at least 3-4 years. Medicine is 5, and then you're going to have to do that for the rest of your life. There are options to change, but you're making that choice in the hopes that that's what you're going to do for the long term. So it's a lot of things to think about when you're only 18, 19. Now, then you have the all the dreaded exams start coming. So you have the UCAT exam, and on top of that, you have to get work experience. Then you have to write statements. You have to choose from all the medical schools, more exams. Then, if you're successful for all of this, interviews. Interviews are the most scary bit of this whole process. And then even after you've got your places from interviews, you still have to get the A-level grades that the offer was based on. So it's a lot of things. It's very difficult. But the key to the medical application process is to take each challenge as it comes individually and try not to get bogged down with the whole thing because it's a lot. I'm a fourth year now. Even looking back on it, it was a lot of things to do in a very short space of time. So traditionally a 4 to 6 year course, 4 years only if you're doing graduate entry medicine. So if you've done a degree and then you go into medicine, but generally it's 5 to 6 years. Every university will be 5 years minimum. Some will be 6 because they'll make you take a year out in the middle to do a separate degree. So for example, universities like Imperial College London, Oxford, Cambridge, they make you take a year out to do another degree in the middle. But medical schools like Leicester, Lancaster, Keele, Birmingham, they don't make you do that. So it's 5 years. The only way to become a doctor in the UK. I know that's starting to change now. They are looking into apprenticeships for medical students, but for the time being and for you guys, the only way to become a doctor in the UK is going to a medical school. And this presentation isn't going to be, I'm not going to make it look, all jovial and lovely and everything. I'm just going to tell you exactly how medical school is. It's from the applications, it's horrendously competitive because you've got, high achieving students everywhere. I mean, sure, most of you, if you'll be used to being high flying students in your school, but suddenly you come to medical school and everyone is a high flying student. And out of that group, someone has to be the best, someone has to be the worst, even though every single person has A stars, high UK CAT, super clever. So suddenly it becomes quite competitive. And it's medical school is like a marathon, not a sprint. So you have to do a lot of stuff over a long period of time, which can make it quite tiring, definitely stressful. But if it's what you want to do and it's what you're interested in, you learn to overcome that. And it is very rewarding. I can't see myself doing anything else apart from medicine, and it's intellectually extremely stimulating, and you learn a lot of information very quickly. In the first 2 years of medical school, you'll learn more than you probably did in 7-8 years before. So it is super interesting if that's what you're interested in. I will say this right at the start: if you're being forced into medicine by someone else, or it's not what you're interested in, you're gonna really not enjoy it because you have to want to be there to get through it. If you don't want to be there, and it's not what you want to do, you're really going to struggle. That is the number one point to say at the moment. So these are some of the common reasons people choose medicine. You know, commonly it's, oh, I like caring for people, it's rewarding. My reason was, you know, I'm fond of maths and science, and what can I see myself doing long term, which at the end of my life I'll be proud on when I look back. That was my reasoning, and I couldn't really see myself doing engineering to fill that justification. So I did this. Now, just because you study medicine doesn't mean you have to become a doctor, because medicine, the medical degree it's like a statement. You know, if you have a medical degree, it says a lot about your capabilities as a person. So you can use that for a lot of other jobs. So it's a great degree to have, but it's equally difficult to get. Then, of course, there is career stability, but as the NHS becomes, you know, more and more dysfunctional, it is worth thinking. That's why I've started salary, because in the past, salary was a component, but now a lot of this is changing. So it might be worth looking into the current climate of the NHS, because that is the place you are going to be going into for work. You start medical school, you're going to be joining an NHS, which is incredibly under pressure, you know, very understaffed, overworked. But that's the system you're going to be joining. So it's good to know what you're signing yourself up for. And then obviously the academic aspect, because you can go into research as well. After doing a medical degree, you don't have to become a medical doctor, you can become an academic doctor. So you do primarily research and contribute to medical advancements. So GCSEs, I'm sure you guys know this, but for any medical school minimum, you need 5. Yeah, and you're looking at nines, 8s, and 7s, really. And as we become more and more competitive, I mean, for you guys, the medical entry is more competitive than it was for me. You know, because of COVID and many other factors, it's changed a lot of things. But the more 9s you have, the more 9s and 8s you have, the easier it makes the process for you. Triple science is preferred. But always remember, you can just go on the medical school website and check. So if you wanted to apply to Leicester University, you can just Google Leicester Medical School entry requirements, and it'll show you a list of GCSEs, A levels, UCAT score, etc. that university wants as a bare minimum. But we'll talk about that later. So A levels. Worth considering medical leadership as an important avenue to consider too. Yes, we can touch on that later. So A levels, most medical schools require AAA, but that it can work. Some of my friends have got in with things like with A star AB, because the A star and the B cancel out to make each other A's. But AAA is the bare minimum. It's very difficult to get in with even AAB. So most medical schools want a chemistry A level. Again, you can check the requirements on the website. Biology, actually surprising, is not a mandatory A level for quite a few medical schools. But if you do biology A level, it makes your life much easier, because semester 1, the first few months of medical school, is just a lot of biology and chemistry A level. To get everyone to the same level. So it will make your introduction to medical school easier. Otherwise, you'll be doing effectively an A levels worth of content in a few months if you don't do biology. The third subject, you can choose whatever you want. You can choose English literature, you can choose Latin, French, whatever. But most commonly it's maths. I did maths, chemistry. I did further maths, chemistry, biology. But you can choose the third one as whatever you want to be. However, like I said, it's becoming more and more competitive. So if you have the options to do 4, and you can do 4, it might be worth considering it. It's a lot of extra work, but it can put you in a good place. But don't be drawn into the mistake of doing further maths and maths thinking it's 2 A levels, because medical schools only accept that as 1 A level. So you don't want to do 2 and then they only say it's worth 1. So don't get stuck in that. Now you've got past this bit, and you come on to choosing a medical school. So you get 4 choices with UCAS. You can choose many medical schools in the country, but you're only allowed to put down 4. And you get 1 reserve choice. So I was looking at figures yesterday night, and apparently 60 to 80% of the applicants don't get any of their choices. Now, don't let that put you off, because a lot of these people won't have the grades to get offers. So they'll just get outright rejected. But it's true, more people get rejected before interview than once you get accepted. But that's just because it's competitive. That's the nature of the course. So the 3 kinds of courses you have are traditional, PBL, and integrated. So traditional courses, basically what it is your first 2 years is just lectures. You don't do much clinical work. And then years 3, 4, and 5, they send you to the hospital and you learn clinical medicine. So you learn all your theory in the first 2 years, and then you put it into practice in 3, 4, and 5. So some universities do that. Then you have PBL, like Kiel. PBL is you pretty much learn medicine by solving problems and doing questions. I'm not the biggest fan of that, which is why I didn't apply to PBL unis. So again, you need to look at what style of teaching universities do and apply to those. So PBL, they'll give you cases and problems at the start of the week, and you have to go and find the answers by yourself, which can be quite difficult. And then they're meant to go through it with you at the end of the week, but that doesn't always happen sometimes. So you need to look at what style will be best for you. Some people will work the best with PBL, other people will be not so good with PBL. So you need to look at it. Then integrated is the kind of new kid on the block. That's what Leicester do here. So you have, it's like traditional. So you have lectures in the first 2 years, but you also have clinical work from the first year onwards. And you have clinical cases every day. So it's like a mishmash of all of the above. That's the integrated course. And personally, integrated course worked the best for me. So that's why I came here. Then of course there is location. I mean, if you live in, as I did in Birmingham, I didn't really want to go more than 2 hours away because it's impractical for coming home. But for some people, that's not an issue. I mean, they're happy to go to university 9 hours away. Some people want to be closer to home, so that's a factor to consider. And then also, you don't have to limit yourself to the UK. There are a lot of degrees in Europe which are accepted in the NHS. So, and they're often cheap, much cheaper than studying in the UK. So if you do still want to go to medical school, it's worth looking at foreign options as well. Obviously, just avoid it goes without saying, avoid the Ukraine region now, because those medical schools are a common destination for UK medical students, but now is not the time to apply there. So because of the current climate of things. So, but yes, Leicester Medical School is unarguably the best medical school in the entire world. Obviously, I'm going to say that because I'm a Leicester student. But feel free to come here for the open days. That's also worth doing, is looking up university open days, putting them on your calendar. Come down to the uni open days. You can see the campus, you can meet students and lecturers, and you can see what it's about. So that's another good way to start thinking about which university you want to apply to. Now, work experience. Very confusing topic, because if you say work experience for medicine, most people will be thinking, you have to have hospital work experience, but that's not really the case. It's good if it's in a hospital, but it doesn't have to be, because hospital placements are really, really difficult to get now, especially unless you know someone, unless you have a family friend or a parent who's a doctor. It's really difficult to get them. So I wouldn't waste too much time trying to get those. It's better, well, you can use any work experience where you showed sustained commitment to care in some format. I had a friend who did lifeguarding, and she talked about the skills that she learned in lifeguarding and transferred that to medicine. So it's really more important what you learned from your work experience as opposed to what work experience you did. Being a hospital placement's great, but the kind of care things are better. So like, care homes, again, like this lifeguarding, volunteering, these kind of work experiences, especially if you do it for a long time. If I turn up to interview and I just have 2 weeks in a hospital, that's not enough. 2 weeks in a hospital and nothing else. 2 weeks in a hospital doesn't look as good as 6 months of volunteering. I had a friend who did 3 years of volunteering just because she liked it so much. Okay, so again, it's more about what you learn from the work experience. Now, UCAT. This is quite a difficult exam. As going to be the first kind of exam you start of this nature. Usually you go and do it in the same place you do a driving theory test, if anyone's done that. And what it is, it's a 2-hour multiple choice question paper. So you sit there for 2 hours on the computer clicking through options, which test your aptitude. So there's verbal reasoning, which is like comprehension style questions. Quantitative, which is just maths. It's GCSE level maths, and well, it's more like entry secondary school level maths. It's not too advanced. Then you have abstract reasoning, which is like non-verbal reasoning in 11 plus. All the patterns and pattern recognition and shapes and those things. Then decision making, which is it's like logical style questions. Then situational judgment. So it'll give you a scenario and it'll give you multiple options, and then you have to rank those options in terms of appropriateness. So the most appropriate and the least appropriate things to do. And they'll take a scoring of all the different sections and give you a score, a total score. Now, the reason UCAT is difficult is not because of the type of questions, it's the time pressure, because you only have 2 hours to do a lot of questions. You don't have 2-3 minutes to think per question. It's less than a minute you have per question. So the time pressure is what makes this exam so difficult. But if you do loads of practice, the best time to do it is the summer before year 13. That's usually when you have the most time for prep. But I use Medify, which is an online preparation question bank where you can use the question books, other question banks if you can find them. And you're not practicing. It's not like for other tests where you're learning the content. You're just practicing for speed. So you're making your mind quicker at answering these questions. That is the whole point of practicing for UCAT. Now, scoring wise, there'll be an average score every year. So for my year, it was 640 because it was quite a difficult paper. The year before me, it was 660, the average. So anything around average, and you're safe for most medical schools. The higher, again, it's the same as A levels and GCSEs. The higher you get, the safer you are. So you just want to try and do the best at every step possible to make your life easier. Now, some medical schools will demand a certain UCAT score. So I can't remember which one specifically, but there is one in London which wants a UCAT of 700 or above minimum. Anything below 700, they'll outright reject you, even if you have 3 A stars. And again, how do you find that out? By going to the university site and looking at the admission criteria. So if you have not such a good UCAT score, you're going to want to apply to universities that don't look at UCAT that much, because there's different weightings. The average in percentage, I'll have to work that out for you. So each section is scored out of 900. In my year, it was 71%. The year below me was around 75, 76%, but it can change. It depends on how the rest of the people sitting the exam that year do to determine the validity of it. So the exam's only valid for 1 year. If you don't get into medical school the first time, you have to do UCAT again. If you take a gap year, you have to redo the UCAT. So that's something to bear in mind. And it does cost £80, one-off fee. So try and do it in the summer before year 13. It's the best time to do it. It's a nasty exam, but if you prepare a lot and get up to speed, doing these questions, what I did is every day I did a paper every single day. And initially I took 4 hours to do it, then cut that down to 3.5, 3 hours, 2.5, 2 hours, and then tried to bring it down as much as possible. So I was trying to do it in 1.5 hours. So I had loads of extra spare time. So just prepare as much as you can, you'll be fine. Because it's testing your aptitude at the end of the day. Now, I'm going to briefly touch on BMAT because it's only used by, so UCAT is used by most of the universities in the UK. BMAT is only used by a few. So taking maths in A-level, actually, I'll answer all the questions at the end, just for time's sake. But so BMAT is only used by Oxford, Cambridge, Imperial, and a few other universities. So only if you want to apply to those, it's really useful, and it's different. 3 sections. The first one is like UCAT, but shorter. The second one is an A-level, well, not a GCSE science test. That's chemistry, physics, maths, and biology. It tests, and you can get practice papers online. And then the third section, you have to write an essay on a medical topic. They'll give you question options, you pick one and you write an essay. It is more difficult than UCAT, and again, you have to pay for it. But if you want to apply to those unis, it's worth having. If you have time to prepare, it's just another thing worth having under your belt. I did UCAT and BMAT as well, but it's the only thing is it's a lot to prepare for together, because you kind of have to do them both for the preparations at the same time because of how the exam dates fall. But again, Medify have now released in the last few years really good BMAT preparation. And there's loads of other websites. If you just Google BMAT preparation or BMAT question papers, BMAT question books, and work through those, it should stand you in good stead. But again, this is only for a very limited number of universities look at BMAT. Personal statement. So you've got 4,000 characters, which are roughly 500 words, and it's your pitch to the medical school as to why you want to do medicine. Even if you have stellar grades, a bad personal statement will just make you look bad, because this is you writing about yourself, telling them why they should accept you. Now, it might be worth having a whole separate session for personal statement writing because it's such an in-depth topic. I wouldn't have time to cover it properly. But briefly, you want to talk about strengths and weaknesses to show that you're insightful. Work experience, what you've learned from it. Don't just put, I did this many months in hospital and saw all these conditions. It's more important to put what you learned from it and how you developed as a person. And obviously why you want to do medicine, but don't make it kind of cringe, and don't give these typical answers like I wanted to do medicine since the day I was born. Being a doctor, it's in my blood. It's the only thing I've ever wanted to do. It just comes across very badly. You need to be open and honest to give genuine reasons for why you want to do medicine. But get as many people to read it as possible. Schools usually have there's usually someone who does medical admissions in school, so they advise students on that. It might be worth talking to those kind of people, teachers, academic staff. If you have any family friends who are doctors, if you know any medical students, send it to as many people as you can, but start writing personal statement early. You'll get your UCAS deadlines when you need to submit it by, but start writing it as early as possible. So you've done all of this stuff. This is a lot of stuff already. Most people aren't here at this point because at some point one of the stages has knocked them over. So getting here is difficult in itself, but then you have the interview, which is the most difficult part of the application process. So you'll submit your UCAS, your predicted grades, your UCAS score, everything, your personal statement. And you'll choose those 4 universities, and then you'll get an offer for interview. So then you go to the interview, and most universities do MMIs. Again, you definitely need a separate session to talk about interviews because it's a massive topic. But MMIs, how it is you have a circuit of stations. So some universities have 7. I know Cardiff, when I went, did 12 or 13 stations. So you have different stations around 10 minutes each where they ask you different things. So one station might be, tell us why you want to do medicine and tell us why. It's basically like a personal statement station. Then another station, you'll have an actor who's crying and really sad, and you basically need to show empathy and talk to them and see what's going on. Then you have other stations where you have to do like a urine dipstick, clinical skills. There's one station where there's a maths test. It really depends on what uni you're going to. There's a lot of information online, but we can cover this in a separate session. The main thing to note about this whole process, you're applying to 4 medical schools. All you need is one. It does not matter what medical school you go to. It's not like other courses where prestige matters. If you go to Oxford or Cambridge for other courses, it's sought after more than if you went to a different university for the same course. But medicine's not like that, because legally everyone has to be taught to the same level, because we're dealing with people's lives. So it does not matter what medical school you go to. It's difficult enough to get in. Don't make your life difficult by signing up for all the hard to get into medical schools, because at the end of the day, you're all going to get a medical degree and you'll all be doctors, and then it doesn't matter what medical school you went to. So don't make your life difficult by putting your 4 options as Oxford, Cambridge, Imperial, and I don't know, another one which is really difficult to get into, because you're setting yourself up for failure. Yes, put one you really want to go to, but then also have some safety options as well, and apply to your strengths. If your strength is super high UCAT, apply to universities which look at UCAT more. If your strength is your A levels, look at universities that look at A levels and GCSEs more preferably. So you need to apply to your strengths. Don't make life hard for yourself. So you've made it through the interview. Congratulations. Now you have 5 to 6 years in medical school, where you will see, and this is the honest truth. You will see more in 5 years than most people will see in their lives. You have the privilege of seeing people at their sickest and their worst. People who've never known you will open up to you and tell you lots of details about their life, and you get to be part of that journey to recovery. You see more hardships and more joy of life and the realities of life that most people are going to see ever. So you definitely grow as a person, okay? However, for most people, including myself, you don't make it. I had 3 A stars predicted, the 700 plus UK CAT, all of this stuff. But my weakness was the interviews. So I didn't make it the first time. I got in through clearing. So if you don't get in, most people don't get in the first time. So these are the options. You can take a gap year, which means you take a year out and then you reapply, but you have to do UCAT again. Transferring this, so if you put your 5th choice as biomedical science, I know Leicester are very good at this, but you can do 1 year of the course and then you can change to medicine. But you have to do UCAT and interviews again, and you have to do really, really well at the degree that you're choosing for transferring. So you have to be really good at biomedical science, and then they'll consider letting you transfer. So if you mess up the transfer phase, you have to finish the degree. You're stuck. So that's something to consider. Graduate medicine means you do the whole degree. So you do full 3 years of biomedical science, or you do medical genetics or psychology or some degree like that, and then you do medicine afterwards. But of course, that's very, very long, because medical school is long already and expensive. And clearing is what I did. So on A-level results day, you call up all the medical schools, see if they have any spaces left. And if they do, they'll call you for interview. If you have to have quite good grades for this to get into clearing, but they'll call you into interview again after A-level results, and then they'll choose a few people, because not everyone will make it. Some people will have the offers, but they don't get the grades. So medical schools will have a few places spare. So you call them up and then you go to the interview and you join that way. But clearing is horrible. You don't want to be in that position. Ideally, you just want to get in first time. It's not a nice place to be. But hope all of you are going to be this slide. you're going to make it through. But if you don't, there are always options. It's not the end of the road. There's someone in the year above who's, he's 32, married with 2 kids, and he's in, the year above me in medical school. So there's no age limit for doing medicine. It's just, so it's easier if you get in straight away, but that doesn't mean it's the end of the road. Okay, there are always options if that's what you want to do. And then so you get into medical school, and the next 5 to 6 years you'll change as a person completely. You do learn all of your theory, you learn everything about human biology, and then you go to the hospitals and you start interacting with patients. And then after 5 years, medical school spits you out and you're a doctor suddenly. So, as you can see, there is still a lot of time for enjoyment and doing other things. It's not going to consume your whole life. I mean, there are times where it gets quite difficult, but you still have time to live a little. So this one here is when we went to a friend's wedding. This is us at placement. This is also us on a road trip. When we went to a conference, and the other four are just us having good times. So it doesn't take up all your time. You still have time to live, but it's good, but it's difficult. It's really tough, medical school. Even if you're that kid who got 4 A stars, 800 plus UK CAT, you're the cleverest person in school. Medical school will be really tough. It's not, no one can go to medical school and say, that was easy. It's difficult. So it's worth knowing what you're signing up for first. And don't glamorize and romanticize medical school, because the realities of it is it's really tough. And that's coming from someone who, look, I thought, I'm doing pretty good in school, I can hack medical school, but then you get here, and they might be in first year or second year or third year or fourth year. Eventually you'll start to feel the pressure, because it's ultra competitive. It's really difficult, but if it is what you want to do, you'll be fine. That's the main thing. If medical school is what you want to do, you'll get through. But it's great. I enjoy it. I wouldn't change anything. I'd still do the same things again. But it's hard to know till you're in it. It's hard to describe what medical school is like until you're actually in it. It's a ton of work. Sacrifices have to be made. But the way I think about it is sacrifices have to be made in all aspects of life. Whatever course you do, there's going to be challenges. So you might as well do a course that you enjoy and face those challenges, as opposed to doing something you don't like, because you're probably going to not enjoy that as much. Okay. So then after medical school, you choose specialties, but that's a talk for another day. So will you be the future GPs, surgeons, or pediatricians, doctors? Let's see. Put some resources in here for you to have a look at, for additional information on medical applications. But now I will answer any questions. Let me stop the recording first.